when Carol did the Gone with the Wind curtain rod dress, that was on the back of a script. I tore off a page and I went, well, we could do this, this, and this, and that was one of those that I couldn't figure out what to do. It said, Scarlett takes the drapes off the window, goes upstairs and comes down with the drapes just hanging off of her. Well, that wasn't very funny. I mean, that was kind of like, so what does that mean? That, that's not funny. And I was trying to think, well, maybe I should make it really into a dress. And I thought, well, no, that isn't funny either. We've seen that. We saw that in the real movie, Gone with the Wind. And so actually on Thursday, I called the art director and I said, can you get me a curtain rod and some of that velvet? I want the real curtain rod like you're going to use. And I just made it on a mannequin. And I didn't even put it on her really until the day of the show. And it was so heavy, and it was way up on top of this staircase, and her dresser was this little 5-foot woman, little tiny woman, and they had these terrible steep getaway stairs in the back of the set. And I said, Annette, I'll go up there. I'll help you with this change because you're not going to be able to do it, and there's no room for anybody else up there but us. And because there was just a little space for her to go off and then come back. We had to do the change live while Harvey and Vicky were doing a little scene. She went up the stairs, we put it on her, got her ready, and then she walked down the stairs. And I've never heard laughter like that in my life. I mean, people were it hit. They all had this sense of what it was in the movie. Everybody had seen that movie, and it just made people laugh, and it still does. I mean, every time I talk to anybody, they bring up this silly curtain rod outfit, with the velvet drapes attached to it. I mean, I had an exhibit in New York of all my whole career and what was in the front window, that outfit. It just doesn't make one bit of sense. But anyway, it's fine. It'll be on my tombstone one day. Mrs. Wiggins was an interesting character. It wasn't, again, that was one of the most memorable times that I changed the character from the way it was written. But I didn't do it without asking. Mrs. Wiggins, which was the dippy secretary to Mr. Tudball, was written to be a little old lady. And that's where the name Mrs. Wiggins, which sounds like a little old lady. And Carol had been doing a lot of little old ladies, and the Gray Panthers, which was the organization that was, you shouldn't mistreat old folks, were kind of on her back, and she had other characters that were older, and I was just kind of like, I read the script and I went, this is funny, but it's not funny because we've been over this territory. What could I do? And I'm thinking about the secretaries that were working at CBS and some of the receptionists that did nothing but file their nails and stare at the clock and go to lunch, and you asked them a question and it was like, huh? So there were a few of those around, and I called Carol and I said, what if we did her like that? What if we changed her whole look? I think you can get more out of it because you've done this so much. And she went for it. She absolutely went for it. But I would never change a character that drastically from the script without asking. And actually, Tim Conway wrote that sketch. That was his whole baby, that character and everything. And so she checked it out with him, and he was fine with it. But it's not that she wouldn't have been good as an old, a funny old lady, but she had, she had the other old lady, Stella Toddler, and she had another one that she did with Harvey on the front porch, the two of them sitting there with a very sweet kind of sketch that they would do, very funny, and then they would always end up sweet. But there was really enough of it, the balance was off. So this was kind of a whole new thing for her to play this sort of dumb blonde. Carol wore kind of what was in style then. It was a little print blouse that I had it in stock. I pulled it out of stock and I kind of fiddled around with it. Gave her a push-up bra, a cinch belt, a very, very, very tight skirt that came down to her knees that controlled the way she walked. You couldn't walk any other way wearing that skirt. And I said, now stick your butt out. Okay. Hey, you got it. And she did it in the fitting room and put the highest heel on her I could get. So by the time you get your heels up here and your knees in here and you stick your butt out, you can't, you're ready to go. And she used it for a long time. Eunice, well, Eunice became a regular character, as did Mrs. Wiggins. You never know, you do new characters every week, and you never know what's going to stick, and what's great one time, but you don't want to see it again. Eunice I was told this is kind of a Tennessee Williams type family. Well, it evolved into more of a, I don't know, kind of a real blue collar worker kind of place, but that's the way it started anyway. And Eunice was Roddy McDowell was on the show, and she was playing his brother, and Mama was the character, and Ed, and all those people. I said, well, I'll get her a chiffon print dress. I always think of that as a Tennessee Williams, because I for some reason I didn't have the script, and they were trying to tell me what it was in the air. Sometimes the script was being rewritten, so you don't have the pages, and you still have to do the costumes, and I get this descriptions on the telephone. That didn't happen often, but once in a while it did. So I found this dress for her, and it was a long evening gown in a secondhand store. Just went out and bought it, and cut it off, and took what I cut off the bottom and made a thing around the top, and add some stuff, and designed a funny wig for her for Roselle to do. Roselle was the hairdresser who did all our wigs, and it just clicked. It was a character she loved doing. It was funny, but it was kind of pitiful and sad, and she was unhappy, and a horrible mother, and a horrible husband, and she wanted more, but she knew she was never going to get more, and it was very bittersweet, the whole sketch, and she loved doing Eunice. I suppose we did Eunice a couple times a month at least. And that dress, which was made probably in the early 30s, still exists, but fortunately it's printed, because it's all patched underneath with chiffon. There's a million patches on it because it just was falling apart after all the wearing. I tried to replace it. I found a fabric that was very close, print that was almost the same. I made it exactly the same, but Carol was a little superstitious. She knew it was there in case, the other one ripped or something horrible happened and she couldn't wear it, but she still wanted to wear the same one. And I told her one time, it was my fault really. I said, certain characters are like the funny papers, and they should always wear the same thing. Every time you see them, they should wear the same thing. I think I was saying that so I wouldn't have to work so hard. I don't know. But anyway, it's true in a way, that you always know what you're going to get. Now, one time Eunice had to go to a funeral, and I did a black version of that dress, but I did black chiffon over print. So it had the same look, but it was all black and with a hat and everything. And then another time she had to play herself in the 1950s when she and Ed, I guess his name was Ed, Harvey's character, were in high school. So I did a big print 50s skirt and a peasant blouse with her bra showing through it, like a nylon blouse, and she was really trashy. I used to have a really good time. Mama was Mama was based on a lady that I used to know, sort of ex-mother-in-law, who was from Virginia, West Virginia. And I made her look just like that. And Vicki played her like that. Vicki didn't know her, but in my mind, that's who I was emulating. And then I found out that Vicki was really doing her ex-mother-in-law, who she had married this country western singer, and then they got divorced, whatever. Anyway, that was so I guess those women are pretty. There's a lot of them out there. Just took what I knew to be what that woman usually looks like. She usually has a bad perm. It's real short, so it doesn't have to do anything to it. A nice print dress that she buys at now. I don't know. She wouldn't be wearing that now. She'd probably be wearing some over blouse and pants. But in those days, those women all wore dresses and a print dress. And I made her a body pad that gave her that kind of just refrigerator shape, And she played it beautifully. And all she did, she never did any special makeup. She wiped off her lipstick, put on the glasses and the wig, and that was it. And, she was probably, maybe 25, 26 when she played it the first time. And it worked. And then she got a whole series out of it. Nora Desmond was like, again, that was whoever thought, we did movie takeoffs all the time. Whoever thought we would keep doing, Gloria Swanson. We did it once, and I kind of copied the way she looked in the movie, kind of, And it was Carol loved doing it. It was so, out of whack with the world, and Harvey was great in it. And so it became a regular, and I would change her clothes from time to time. She always had these sort of pendulous breasts and very kind of silent movie outfit on. But then one of my favorites when Nora went to the Brown Derby. She was all done up in her glasses and her monkey fur coat to the floor, black and white monkey fur, and some kind of a hat, and looking just terrifying. That was just plain fun to do. And we thought we were going so over the top. And then a few years ago, Glenn Close did Sunset Boulevard, and Carol wasn't doing anything compared to what Glenn Close was doing. I mean, she was tearing up the scenery like you can't believe. So it was kind of funny. And then they were doing I believe it was the Tonys on the Sunset Boulevard set. And there was the staircase there. And Carol desperately wanted to make her entrance down the staircase. They wouldn't let her go near it because they knew what she would do. Because, that show is so close and so over the top compared to what the movie was. I love Zelda. Zelda was the nudge. Zelda was kind of one-dimensional in a way. She was just this real nag, and it was kind of a Walter Mitty, Harvey. Harvey would have a dream or whatever, and he would become a Mississippi gambler or for World War I flyer or whatever, or pirate. And there would always be these gorgeous women, around him. And then all of a sudden you'd hear this voice in the background, George. And in would come Carol as the nudge, dressed within the period. You'd see Carol in the beginning of the sketch as herself with Harvey in their house or something, and then he would fall asleep, and he'd have these incredible dreams that would turn into nightmares because Zelda would appear in them. And it was just fun for me. I just loved doing that. And she didn't care how ugly she looked, and she looked pretty horrible in those. It was just plain fun. But that was one of the ugliest we ever made her look. And like I said, she loved it.